9 o'clock to 1.
To 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that works out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we do that, and then I do cable television ads for the local cable over here. We sell cable ads and produce TV ads for we put ads on ESPN and CNN, Fox, these type of things. So I do that, and then we do the football and the basketball. So it keeps the old guy busy. You know, don't have time to slow down too much. Yeah.
All right.
All right, here we go. Oh, yeah. And we open the morning up here with a little Christmas music from Whitney Houston. Good morning. The doors to the dome are open on a Tuesday. It's a little warmer outside than what it was yesterday, thank goodness. I have only 6 layers on today, where yesterday there were 8 or 10. No gloves, no mittens today. As you can see, I'm doing this thing kind of on my own. My fingers and all are working really well. And as we always do on Tuesday mornings, we start our day out with an educational program. Today we have representatives from Northwest State Community College, and I have 3 guests today that Jim Bellamy sent over to me today with a full list of drilling down. And before you are done with me here today, and they are done with me today, you will know everything you ever wanted to know about Daniel Stuckey, about Janet Delcamp, and Lisa Beecher, and it's good to have all 3 of you today.
Thank you.
Guys, I'll tell you what, we do this program every month, a Northwest State Community College program, and we always have to, because it's in the contract, we always have to start by saying something very nice about the guy that set this all up, Jim Bellamy, my lifelong friend and partner in crime. And so, you know, I think that the first thing on his list was everybody says something nice about Jim. And I asked everybody in the room to say something nice about Jim, and they all scratched their head and said, "There's just nothing I know about this guy that would be good to say." So,
that's not true.
So we're just, Jim, I hate to tell you, but we're just going to have to avoid that question today, because I think the answers we are about to get would not have been satisfactory. So we're just going to move that on down the road. How's that? Let's start with Janet Delcamp, who is the Dean of Allied Health, Business, and Public Service. And Janet, that's quite a title. Tell me a little bit about that. What does it mean?
Well, I supervise all of the faculty in the Allied Health Department, which is medical assisting and phlebotomy, the business department, which encompasses anything from entrepreneurship to business management to real estate, and then also public services, which is our police academy, our human services, and also our pre-kindergarten programs.
Wow, you've got a lot on your plate, lady. There's no doubt about that, huh?
I would agree.
But that's good. And you know, the one thing you shared about me that I want to share with everybody too today, and that is the fact that you're an old radio person too. You told me when you came in here today that you, as a younger person, used to come in here and do radio shows. Tell the folks a little bit about that.
Oh, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me by any chance. I was part of a 4-H club called 4-H Vibes when I was 13, and there were several other young people, and Bill Priest was the 4-H advisor, and we would do, I believe it was every other Saturday morning for a half hour, we would do a little show about what was going on in 4-H, and then in August we'd go to the state fair and interview people. And I think the most famous person I ever interviewed was Bob Evans from Bob Evans Restaurants.
Really?
Yep.
Now that would have been a fun interview, I think, huh?
It was interesting, yeah. He had bought the Grand Champion hog, I think, at that time, and that's what I talked to him about.
That's amazing, you know. And for a 13-year-old person, that probably had to put a little lump in the throat when Bob walked up, right?
Yep. Oh, sure. It sure did.
Yeah. And Bill Priest, what a wonderful guy. He was with this radio station for a number of years. And we still bring him in every now and then, you know, and chat about different things. So what a great guy, and I'm sure a wonderful advisor back at that time.
He was amazing, yes.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, you have commencement coming up, and that's somewhat the reason for the 3 of you being here today.
That's correct. That is Monday the 17th, and it is 7 p.m. in our auditorium. I'd like you to come early. There is limited seating. Our commencement in the fall is a little bit smaller, so that helps. But we are going to be doing a live stream, so make sure anyone that's interested go to northweststate.edu, and there's information about the live stream on our website.
You know what? There's one of the biggest differences of this generation compared to any other generation coming up. When I graduated from Ohio University, my folks didn't even show up. They said, the heck with it. I'm still not believing that he made it through, okay? We'll wait to see the piece of paper. And nowadays, if you have relatives or whoever that are a long distance away and can't make that, they can sit at their computer and watch the entire event.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, what a wonderful situation.
The parents and relatives and friends are a huge part of our students being successful. Mm-hmm. That support is so important, and so we want them to be able to share in that victory and that celebration.
Now, on the opposite side of our table here today is a gentleman who is actually going to play a big part in that commencement program.
Yes.
And his name is Dan Stuckey, and Dan, welcome in.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about Dan Stuckey.
Well, I started college 2.5 years ago, and it was because of my factory closing that I worked at for 22 years.
Okay.
They closed the doors and moved our jobs out of the country, which I didn't really realize at the time that it was going to give me an opportunity to go to college, but 2 years later I got a letter in the mail stating that I was eligible for retraining, which meant that I could go back to college and it wouldn't cost me anything. So it was quite the opportunity, and I was thankful for that. But again, didn't really know how to handle that because I was working 2 jobs, and the thought of going to college, because I couldn't quit either one of my jobs.
Sure, so, you still needed the income every week, right?
So I drive bus for Montpelier schools, and that gives me insurance and a little bit of spending money. But okay. I sell real estate full-time now. I sold real estate for 10 years part-time while I worked at the factory. But then once the factory closed, I went into full-time real estate. So I've got real estate full-time, bus driving full-time, and then this opportunity comes along, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? I don't know if I can take advantage of this opportunity because I don't know if there's enough time in the day.
Yeah, sure.
So thought about it and decided to give it a shot, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
So
where were you working? What was the company?
It was it started out as Simpson Industries over
okay.
in Eden when I first started there. It was 22 years at that point. Then it was sold to Metaldyne, Diversified Machine, and then Chassis finally closed the doors. So.
Man, and that was happening so much. This has been how many, 2 years ago? You say?
It's been 4 and a half years ago. Yeah.
Back in that time, that was happening all over the place.
Oh, you bet. It was happening a lot, and we were scared to death. We didn't know what we were going to do.
Yeah. So. And I'll tell you what, because this is radio, so you can't see, and I think nowadays everybody's worried about what their age is. Well, I'm an old guy, okay? I'm a real old guy, and you're a little younger than I am, okay? What I would say. And but you'd been working for how many years when this all happened?
Well, I worked at that factory for 22 years, but I had been in other places. I worked up in Angola for about 5 years, and I also worked in Indianapolis for about 5 years as a manager there. So
you were closer really to start thinking about retiring
than
you were starting a new job and a new education and new everything else. Not that you were
close.
But
when the plant closed, I was 51.
Okay.
And I was at that point where I'm too young to retire, but I'm too old to go out and find a new job somewhere.
Sure.
So just go out and start putting in applications. Most of the time, they're going to go for the young folks.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, doggone it, I don't know why that is, because us old guys, we're pretty hard to beat. You know what I mean, we're pretty good employment candidates.
That's right.
And sitting to your left is Lisa Beecher, and Lisa, would you say the same about the fellow to your right? I've heard the comment before we opened the mic today that this guy has a little bit of energy about him.
He does. He's a wonderful student. I would say model student. And I don't probably walk in the first day of class and give my cell phone out, but Dan is a student that I gave my cell phone to, and we communicate on the weekends. I mean, I'm more than willing to help the students, that reach out, and Dan has done a great job of that.
Wow.
Thank you.
Now Lisa is a faculty member in the business school at Northwest, okay? So explain to the folks listening a little bit about how you fit into Dan's life there. How did you guys, you were teaching him a class, I guess? Is that the first class, one of the first business classes he took?
Right, yeah. We were talking before we went on air here, and I actually have had Dan as a student in every year that he has been, every semester that he's been at the college. So I've seen him grow from the very first class I taught to where he is now, and that's very satisfying for me as an instructor to see that growth pattern.
Now tell me a little bit about Lisa here. How long have you been at Northwest, and where are you from? Give me some background.
This is my 6th year full-time teaching. However, I've actually taught since 2002 at the college.
Okay.
I started as part-time, just as really a growth avenue of where I kind of wanted to take my career. I actually started my teaching career at Defiance College, and I taught marketing there for 4 years. And I was approached by the provost at the time to come teach. Teaching wasn't really an avenue that I was going to take. I'm a business person, so I started my own business. I'm an entrepreneur. I worked in marketing and probably about 15 years in the external, business environment. So that was kind of where my career was headed, but I found teaching to be very satisfying, and I could bring a lot to the table as far as real world, business, interactions. So I got into, like I said, teaching at Defiance College, and I just pursued kind of part-time teaching at other schools as well, and have been doing it ever since. Turned into my full-time career, and I really, really enjoy giving back and having impact on students.
Yeah, and you know what, the neat thing, especially with what you do at Northwest, I mean, you get the traditional type student who just comes right out of high school and is 18 years of age that you have to deal with. And then you get a fellow like Dan who's been down the road a couple of miles, who comes in, and you have to deal with them. And there's, in a lot of ways, I'm sure there's similarities between teaching those people, but there's also a lot of differences in trying to deal with somebody who has 30 more years of life experience under the belt.
And it's wonderful to see that interaction, and they all bring different things to the table, and we can learn from each other. Yeah. So it's neat.
Yeah, that is neat. So are you from the area, Lisa, originally? Or
I am. Defiance.
Okay, so you're a Defiance person.
Yep.
Went to school where? At Defiance, or where did you go?
I started at Miami University, went there 2 years.
Okay.
Ended up coming back.
The Red Hawks, I think they're Red Hawks nowadays, right?
Yeah, they were Redskins
when I was at
days,
OU. I was at OU, and that's what they were. Now that's not politically correct, so we have to worry about that just a little bit. We don't worry much about that around here too much. We're correct. We're politically correct any way we go. How's that?
Yeah.
So you were at Miami. So where'd you go?
And then I actually came back to Defiance College and graduated from there with a double major in marketing and management. And I want to put a plug into Jerry Hayes because he was my marketing instructor at Defiance, and we just have a great relationship from the day that I met him in class to now. So he's a little bit of a mentor of mine.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now, you said you started your own business. What kind of business did you start there?
I actually started Putt-Putt Golf and Games in Defiance. Yeah, and it's grown immensely from the day I started it back in the year 2000 to where it is now. So it's been, up and operational for 18 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, very proud of how that's grown and just the envelopment that the whole community has given it. So
fantastic. Yeah. So you still have that business, and then you teach at Northwest still.
Yep. And then I also got my master's at University of Toledo. Had a great experience, getting my MBA there. So.
Wow, that is amazing. We have 3 very talented people with us here today as part of our education program. We need to step away and pay some bills. It's about 24 minutes after 9 o'clock. I have Daniel Stuckey with me here, who is actually going to be the student speaker at commencement, and we're going to get into that one here after the break. Janet Delkamp, who is the Dean of Allied Health, Business, and Public Service, and Lisa Beecher, who is a business faculty member at Northwest State. When we come back, we're going to start digging in with all the nasty questions that Jim Bellamy sent over here that you don't know about that will really show your true spirit here on the Q96.5.
Lawn care service for a free estimate.
the very beginning here of the program today. Dan basically was working in the area about 5 years ago, and the company he was working for moved out of town, left him high and dry like so many folks had at that point in time. And he decided to work 2 jobs and go to school because he's just a young fella, and he's ambitious, and you know, that's the way that his mom and dad taught him. Yep. And so what are we going to talk about at commencement, Dan? What do you have your speech written already?
Yes, I've already written it. I've already sent it to the college, and they've okayed it. So it's all done and waiting. I think the biggest thing is just to you know, not be afraid. You know, I know when I looked at this opportunity, just the idea of going to college at my age scared me to death. It's like I don't know how I'm going to handle this. You know, my story, you know, begins way back because I dropped out of high school.
Wow.
I dropped out of high school after my freshman year and started working in a factory at 16 years old. I was good that I went back. I went back to high school. Well, it was actually adult education back when I was 20. Up in Camden Frontier School, they were offering an adult education class, so I took it just to get my GED. I went 7 months. Now, all they teach you in 7 months, they start you back out at 2 + 2, and by the end of the 7 months, you might be into decimals. So you really don't get any of that high school, you know, algebra, calculus, all that stuff.
Sure.
So, and then I was fortunate because after I received my GED, they said that if I stayed 2 more months, I could get my high school diploma. So I ended up getting both. I was blessed there to get both. But again, facing this opportunity, you know, it's one thing to forget what you've learned 35 years ago, but it's another thing to not have learned it at all 35 years ago and then be faced with this opportunity of going to college. So, yeah, it's very scary, but I can honestly say right now I've done it. I give the Lord all the credit because without His guidance, I don't think I could have. There was a few times that I had my doubts.
Yes.
But we got through it, and I'm very thankful we did.
Now, you will graduate with what degree then? What were you?
I've business management was my major, and that's what I've completed.
And this will help you with your real estate business, I would assume, or
yes.
Or are you planning on bigger and better things? Or are you going to be a part owner here with Lisa, or start a new corporation?
Well, you know, I'm leaving my opportunities open. I do have plans.
All right.
I have been a realtor now going on 15 years. Mm-hmm. So I have built some clientele that I've been successful with. I don't want to just throw that away.
Right.
So the whole plan when I started this college venture was to seek my real estate broker's license.
Okay.
I received my real estate license at Northwest State back in 2004. So I've been a realtor ever since then. But the goal was in order to get my broker's license, I need 2 years of higher education, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to get that.
Sure.
So now that I have that, I can apply for my broker's license and hopefully, eventually get my own business, start my own business, or buy a real estate company. But that's the goal, is to have my own company.
I got you.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Lisa, tell me a little bit about this guy, because that's a pretty impressive story. I mean, at a high school dropout, right, that now has a college degree in his 50s and has come back and turned everything around over the course of the last 40 years. That had to be a little bit, that's unusual, or is that something that you see every day?
Well, I want to first take this opportunity, if I've never told Dan before face-to-face, that I'm very proud of him.
Thanks.
And what he has done. So
Thank
you. Yeah.
But, I guess it goes both ways, because a little bit, is obviously, our responsibility, in teaching, but there's a student responsibility as well to, grow and to learn from, what you're doing. He is so invested in learning what he did wrong and correcting it, for the future. And you know, like I said, we're on, you know, we exchange cell phone numbers, and
Sure.
He's just so interested in doing things right and doing things to the fullest potential.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, that's why they obviously picked him to make the big speech that day, I would think, right? Huh?
Yep.
That and maybe the fact that he seemed like a pretty good public speaker, even though he seemed to be, Janet, he said he was going to be a little nervous here today that this was a first. But I don't think that young fella has got any problem standing up in front of a crowd, does he?
No, I don't think so.
I think he can make that work without any problem whatsoever. Why did you drop out? Why did you say the heck with it at 14?
Well, I went to striker schools.
Okay. Gosh, you might have had Doug Feely that we were talking about at Art back then. That guy's about 115 years old.
Actually, I did.
There you go.
He actually had his studio across the street from the school.
Yeah.
And we used to go over there, and we did a lot of art projects there. And actually, my son lives in Hollywood, California, and is an artist. He's went to college for art, so
I'll be done.
Yeah, he's good there. But yeah. I forgot where we were going with that.
Yeah, why did you drop out of 14?
Oh, yeah. Well, I went to Stryker from kindergarten through freshman year, and then my parents moved to Nettle Lake, and that took me out of Stryker schools where I was comfortable with. Back in the 70s, things were a lot different. You know, there was drugs, there was alcohol, there was a lot of things back then that, you know, little kids were susceptible to, and I know that's going on today as well, but it was a little different back then. But the schools weren't as strict as what they are now. My parents didn't even know I wasn't going to school. I skipped school a lot when we moved to Eden because I just didn't fit in there. I didn't feel like I fit in.
Sure.
So after about 6 months in my sophomore year, the principal there at Eden just kind of gave up on me and sent my books home with my sister and said, we give up. And my mom simply looked at me and said, well, if you're not going to go to school, then you need to get a job. So I started working in a factory at 16, and that was all I just wanted to make money. I really didn't care about education.
Sure.
Sure. But yeah, it didn't fit into my lifestyle back at that time.
That is amazing. What an amazing story. You know, that really is. Janet, you know, do you get that very often? I mean, do you have a lot of Dans at Northwest State?
Actually, we have more than you would imagine.
Sure.
Different, all kinds of different circumstances. It's amazing to see the human spirit and what people come out of to be successful. And, you know, as an educator with our faculty and everyone, it's very, very rewarding to be part of that.
Oh, I bet it is. There's no doubt about that. And Lisa, you've already said, you know, one of your favorites sitting over to your right there. But do you have several Dans and had several Dans since you've been at Northwest? Is this unusual, or is he really that one shining star that's sitting up there, and then there are a bunch of them kind of below him there a little bit?
Like I said, he's unique and he's a model story. But as Janet said, there's a lot of stories that people have unique experiences that, again, are going back to school or trying to improve, you know, their life and grow their careers.
Sure. It sounds to me like there was more education that went on than just the classroom between you two guys as well. And I would think for somebody who's coming back as an older student coming back into things, I can see myself, if I had to go back and go after a degree at this point in time, to sit in a classroom for 2 hours or an hour or whatever it might be, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, I don't know that I could get back into that, but there were things that maybe I'd want to know that I'd need to know that wouldn't be necessarily in the book. Do you find that to be the case too?
Yep, and I would not classify myself as an easy A instructor. And I like to get students to think.
Sure.
So I do a lot of case analysis, and I try to get their perspective and put them in, you know, real type world situations, and really try to challenge them.
Sure.
Because that's what it's about, and I feel like that's how you learn better. Yeah,
no doubt. Hardest day you've had, man. With Lee. You're going to give up any dirt here right now? Let's pull back for a minute. Because let's go over to Janet real quick. He is going to graduate, right? He's over the hurdle.
Well, he better be careful with Lisa.
Lisa, are grades in yet? Is there a possibility? Yet?
No, they're not in. They're not in.
Let me now ask you that same question and understand that maybe the career's still on the line, Dan. So let's not give me the best story you've got, but give me a day that was really difficult that kind of sticks out in your mind, but then was maybe a game changer.
Well, I never really had any hard days as far as it comes to Lisa.
Sure.
I mean, she's always been very helpful. If I not understanding something, I can call her up and say, hey, I don't quite understand this. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. And she'll direct me where I need to go. I mean,
sure.
And that's great. I remember specifically one time where I was a little worried about our team. We were doing a team project, and I had a bus trip at that time. I take several bus trips, kids to wrestling and basketball games and stuff. Well, this time we were at a football game, I believe, and I was concerned because my teammates were not getting with me, and I was starting to panic. This deadline was coming up, which there's a lot of deadlines when it comes to college, but this deadline was coming up, and I wasn't getting any response back from my teammates. And so I'm sitting on the bus at this game, and I call her up, and I said, Lisa, I don't know what to do. I've reached out to them, but I can't get them to answer. So what do I do? And she said, well, you just continue doing what you're doing and continue to reach out to them. If they don't get back with you, let me know, and I'll light a fire under them. I said, okay. So, and believe it or not, they finally did get a hold of me, and everything panned out, and it was okay. But yeah, there's moments that you just don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, no doubt. Did you light a fire, Lisa? In between,
I don't think I had to light too much fire.
No.
Yeah,
no.
it ended up working out.
Yeah, it worked out.
You know, I just for Dan to know that I'm here if he needs me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's been great. I can't say enough about Lisa, and being there for me, but all of the instructors, with the exception of one. But I've had all of the instructors there to where if they're very helpful. Yes. They want to see you succeed.
Yes.
So they're very mindful to your problems. If you have something and you go to them, and most of them will come right out and let you know what you're doing wrong and what you need to do to make it better. Yeah. So it's been great.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Schools program going on this Tuesday morning. It's 15 minutes before 10 o'clock. We need to pay a few bills. When we come back, we'll wrap things up with members of Northwest State Community College here in the Q96.5.
It's a big deal, and we're busy.
All right,
making preparations.
we're moving. How's that?
Yeah,
Down to the last
great.
bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Easy, huh?
Oh yeah.
Simple?
No, it's
Oh,
very
yeah.
conversational. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that you're happy here today. That's what we do. That's what we enjoy doing.
And payload, where SUVs are built with available features like terrain management and driver assistance.
Yeah, I think my hardest class was Comp 2.
I kept thinking about the story about Comp 2 and about how you kept going back to that instructor and going back and going back until finally he respected you enough to really help. And
Yeah. That was a turning point, because I'll tell you, I was down there at the pool table thinking, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do this. And
was this early on, or was this?
This was the second semester.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, Comp 2.
Yeah, the first semester I did pretty good, and I thought, man, maybe I can do this. And then the second semester hit, and it was like, oh God, I'm in trouble. I just thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. But yeah, I turned around and faced my fear, and it all worked out. But yeah, that was scary.
The exclusive Q96.5 AccuWeather forecast. Partly sunny, cold today, high 31. Very cold tonight, low 17.
Is he still there?
Sunday,
Dr. What's it? English teacher.
Barris?
Barris.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's the one that just about turned my whole thing around. I was about ready to walk out. But turned right around and went back up there.
And former Napoleon and
That's good.
University of
That is
Toledo
good. Yeah.
four-year standout Jordan Loft, now the director of basketball operations at Toledo. It all starts Wednesday at 7. Sports Weekly, driven by the Terry Hendricks Auto Group.
Kind of sad to see this journey end, but and again, I'm glad to get my life back. Start spending time with grandchildren again, and stuff like that. So. Yeah.
It probably has taken up most of your days.
Oh, it's just heartbreaking when your grandson calls you and says, "Papa, can I come over this weekend?" It's like, no, I've got too many things to get done. The deadline is Sunday night, and if I spend the weekend with you, I can't get these done. And so, yeah.
And then you call your professor, and she says, "Man, if you don't do that, I'm busting your heart, dude."
You lose points if you're a day late.
Ebenezer Scrooge is not that big compared to somebody that we know.
No, she said you can turn your assignments in late. You just lose points.
But
take your medicine,
I don't want to lose points. So.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sorry, son.
How old's the grandkid?
He's 5. Well, he was 5 then.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 7 now. So.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a fun time.
Yep.
5. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I take him fishing and stuff between semesters. I got a 2 or 3 week break there, so I'd spend a little time with him then. But yeah,
we're going to come around on this and just finish things up so that they'll get enough time to deal with everything. Okay.
All right.
So we're right away.
At Archbold Medical Center, 446
day.